My name is Fabienne Cosulich, and I am co-owner of this showroom. We sell mainly Italian furniture, but we sell antiques, vintage, mid-20th century design, and a new contemporary collection entirely customizable to your requirements and needs. So we really cover all the areas, and we hope to satisfy all your needs. And we, of course, I believe that all of you know that our mission is to support Italian craftsmanship and Italian excellence. So I have a partner today with two fantastic persons who have really a bearing in our community, and so I'm very pleased to present John Douglas Eason, an interior designer, and he is ambassador of 40 Awards Next this year, and ambassador of the Sustainable Furnishing Council, which I found it extremely interesting. And he will tell you more about it instead. And here I have Jeff Gardner. He's a real estate broker, and he's the real deal. And he is a licensed associate with Corcoran, but he's the top 1% of 47,000 NRT agents in the country. So let them speak for themselves. We'll begin with John. John, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and why I love you so much.
Thank you, Fabienne. Let's see, I'm an interior designer. I've been in the business for a little bit over 30 years. I've had my own design business now I started in 2000, that makes it 21 years. I love what I do. I have in a previous life, I worked in a business I couldn't stand, and for the past 30 years, I've been fortunate to be in a business that I absolutely love. I've twice been nominated and listed as a top 50 designer in New York City, and which I consider to be quite an achievement. And I have incredible business in Miami, Connecticut, Westchester County, and a couple of things going on in Wyoming now. So it's been a nice 20 years. Looks like it might keep going on.
Exactly. And Jeff, tell us a little bit then about you. And why I love you as well.
Actually, I want to thank you so much for inviting me, Fabienne. We met at a networking event
yes,
some years ago. It's great to be social again. I'm glad to see all of you as well. A big part of my life is seeing people in their homes and out, socializing, and transacting in New York City. I'm licensed in the state of New York. I'm actually transacting a home with my team member, Cliff Hoppus, in Berryville, New York, so I'm able to work throughout the state. And of course, my primary business is in New York City, and even primarily more Brooklyn and Manhattan. I'm a resident of New York City for 31 years. I currently live in Brooklyn, but I've lived in Manhattan as well. And I'm going to be moving back to Manhattan to the West Village in the summer of next year. I'm going to make some changes in my residency.
Really? You live in the countryside?
I'm living in the countryside, getting back to be the sick boy.
Oh.
I also own a home in Milford, Pennsylvania. If you're ever in Milford, I would love to see you and show you around my little hamlet, which is an antiques wonderland. If you're ever looking for interesting antiques, mid-century modern antiques. So, you have my information. I'd welcome you to visit and check it. Milford, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Jeff. So the reason why we wanted to have this discussion is because the scenery has changed so much lately. So I have a question for you. I would like to know from your past experience and through everything that has happened today, what is really the big change? What has changed dramatically in your business?
Today, as you all know, COVID informs everything. this is not really the forum to discuss that. We all hope that that subsides and that we can return to normal life. Aside from that, it's technology, which is affecting all of us. Technology has transformed real estate from a local business where you probably recall some of you seasoned New Yorkers, a shop on every corner, flyers and such, running out to get the Village Voice, the New York Times to get the listings. The New York Times still has listings, by the way. To a technologically driven business that is changing in ways that are changing even as we speak. I should be speaking to this, right?
If you can.
Things have changed so dramatically that a working broker needs to be on top of the technology 24/7. Wanting to work with a firm that is technologically advanced. And if I could say something in terms of just in the last couple of years, what I think is interesting, is the change in the brokerage model and social media. So the brokerage model has forever been that when one broker got a listing, they would initially fax it out to the other brokerages. That has changed obviously into a residential listing model where you can go ahead and look. But of course what's really changed is that the consumer has the same access to the listings that the brokers do through sites called Zillow, StreetEasy, Realtor.com, and so on. These are aggregator sites. They're actually not listing sites. They're aggregators of all the data. They're not well policed, I'll be frank with you. I think you do better run a site like Corcoran.com, which has a direct feed from the residential listing service. There has been an attempt by some brokerage firms to do a digital-only model. Those are firms, and I don't disparage them, by the way. I call them discount firms because they are. They offer a discounted rate. There are firms like Redfin and Purple Brick. They have not had much success in New York City because New Yorkers, as you may know, love excelling. They love personal touch. They love socialization, and they love prestige. And a lot of my clients want the prestige of working with a large firm, and what they really want is to work with an expert and get that expertise. And that's something that unfortunately these digital firms cannot offer because you don't have the personal touch with firms, right? So one model that we are looking towards for the future is more and more importantly, just as you see such elegance and such uniqueness here, you're finding that experience in real estate transactions. People are still looking for that human touch. And then the second huge transformation has been social media, because where we used to take an ad in the New York Times or House and Garden or some other publication that comes out once a month, well, once a month now would never be sufficient. The listing would be sold in a month. It would be stale in a month. Social media has become our main source, as you probably know in your own businesses, our main source of getting out information about our listings. So this advent of technological changes in social media, it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by it. And it's something to learn every single day. A new site, a new aggregator, a new tool that's available to me, especially in the social media range. It's fascinating.
Well, it seems that we are experiencing right the same changes, right, John, in our community as well. Us as retailers, because there's so much change, not only the way that we have to do business with our customer, but because of the social media. And I believe, John, that you are experiencing a little bit something in that line. So tell us about the big changes that you are experiencing in your profession, if it's very similar to Jeff or really what is so different for you today.
Okay. I think there were a lot of similarities. I can remember the first time that I became aware of what the internet could do. It was almost 20 years ago. I just started my business. I was out shopping for some chairs for a client for a beach house and found the chairs, took a photo, emailed it to her, where in the past I would have taken the Polaroid, popped it in the mail, sent it. She would have gotten it, 5 or 6 days later, called me and told me, okay, yes or no. Instead, the client saw the chairs that I was showing her and she said, those are okay, but I love the one just in back of it. And by noon the next day, we had bought 16 chairs, sight unseen, with a photo that I'd taken. So that alone, once we were able to communicate in that way, was a big change. I see more and more changes. You know, everything I've recently taught myself how to do presentations on where I can take all the items, all the fabrics, all of the furnishings and what have you, put them on one page where a client can actually visualize a room. Of course, I can also have that room drawn today so they can have the experience of walking through the room with a 3D image, which is unbelievable. You know, it's not been that long ago that I would go to a client meeting and, you know, I take 2 hours and say, we can only go through X amount of rooms. I'd have images that were all printed out on my letterhead, and I'd present these to people, and we'd go through it. We'd have all the fabrics, and maybe we might have a mood board, but, you know, we'd be sorting through things, and somebody would say, now, where's that dresser? And all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, there's a scramble of paper, and so it was a challenge, and that's not part of the process anymore. I think the one main thing that does not change is what you were speaking to, and that is expertise matters. You know, being able to talk to the client, being able to get into the client's head and understand who they are. One of the things I've always loved about this business is I can almost always have a conversation with the client, go out shopping for fabrics and what have you for them, and I find that fabrics and things speak to me because they feel like that client, and it is amazing to me how frequently that is dead on. So I think those are some of the changes. I think one of the changes I've seen come about just since COVID is, I was thinking about this the other day. I am now designing homes around the fact of the husband being at home, which was where he was never before, and we have to get him a desk that is placed somewhere so that whatever is behind him cannot be seen. So it's now we're working rooms around where this desk is going to go, and so I find that to be quite amusing and a new advent since COVID.
See, yes, definitely lately the home has taken a big place in our lives, and homes have a new value today and a new importance. But well, I can rely to a lot of the changes that you have explained on social media and on people being more prone in looking at what they need on the internet. But I rely also on what you are both saying, that expertise matters. And that is something that is not easy to replace just online. But I'm amazed that really today that people are very comfortable in buying a piece even of thousands of dollars online, even without looking at it, not looking, without seeing it or touching it, which is something that a few years ago was quite not, I don't say not possible, but it was very difficult that would happen. People wanted to see and to touch what they were buying. So today the consumer approach is completely different. Our job also is different because of all these tools, these new tools that we have to use, we have to learn, which is good because it keeps us young, right? But the consumer also has changed in his way of behaving. So a question that I have, John, is today, what does the customer want that is very different from what they wanted in the past?
Well, again, I would say the one thing that is always paramount is the client wants service. They want to feel like it's a personal experience. I think the expectation of being able to get things super quick has totally changed because everything is out there to be seen, everything is out there with price tags on it, and for the consumer, I think that's kind of a wonderful experience, but I also believe firmly that they need a guiding hand, and I think what else has changed.
So customer are more demanding.
Customers are more demanding, but I have to say, the whole experience of COVID is kind of setting the clock back, at least in the business that I'm in, because now you place orders for things that are going to come in July, and then you get a notice when they're supposed to be in, that it's coming in December.
We are all experiencing.
Yes, and it's not just one thing. It's it's furniture, it's fabrics, it's everything. So when you find a fabric and it's in stock, you grab it and you tell the client, get your money to me, because once it's gone, it's gone.
But that's why also it's nice to get to turn to Europe instead of more far away shores, because Europe is slightly, not completely prepared, but slightly better organized at the moment, even if in transportation, even with all the problems that we're having. And so Jeff, for you, what is the big difference in what the customer wants today compared with yesterday?
Yeah, I kind of could. And of course, talking to the supply chain as well. How does that affect real estate today? Well, it affects new development. I'm personally developing a project in Bed-Stuy now, and I'm close with a lot of developers, and I'm running into the problems of not being able to get building materials. Well, that's going to affect supply and demand in real estate, right? So, and time is money, as you all know. So, the longer a property sits, the more it becomes expensive. The prices could rise on those properties because they have to be recouped those expenses. So, this supply chain issue, which is a front page story in the New York Times today regarding Vietnam, is something that's going to affect all of us, no matter what we do. Apparently, it's going to affect Christmas because you're not going to be able to get Nike shoes. This is an example of how far-reaching this issue can be, which we hope will be resolved as soon as possible. Aside from that, I kind of agree with John that, and I think we'll probably agree, because of social media and Instagram, because of Pinterest, our clients are savvy. They see images of fantastical places they never had access to so easily before. They know the names of designers and brands. They know the names of finishes, wood, marble, granite. So to be successful, we have to be able to speak the language of our clientele. And our clientele is a savvy, vision-savvy clientele. Now, I'm very lucky because I have a background in design. I have a degree from UCLA in design. I worked as a stylist and photographer for many years. That was my transition into real estate. But the opportunity for designers right now could very well be in staging. I don't think that a consumer can sell a property without staging. Corcoran, for example, has a program that allows sellers who simply don't have the money to fix up their apartment in advance. It's a loan that would be paid back on the sale of the property, but that takes an unsellable property and makes it sellable. So I'm too busy to do that myself, but I can certainly hire people to do that. So there are opportunities in real estate for design that did not exist. That program is 6 months ago. That didn't exist 6 months ago. And because of the fact that our clientele are so visually savvy, they realize that they can't sell a broken apartment or an empty apartment or an unpainted apartment. This is creating work for people. This is creating business. It's a very good time for designers, in my opinion. This is an opportunity.
And on the top of opportunities, I hear that there is more and more knowledge from our audience, more and more knowledge about what they want, what they see, right? And in a way, it's very exciting and very pleasing, because when you have expertise, as I believe we all have, it's even you feel more compelled to really share your expertise with that accrued knowledge. And I believe that this knowledge, we were speaking about it, John, last time, has brought also some values. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this discussion with you is about the fact that you are ambassador of the Sustainability Council, Sustainable Furnishing Council. And because we were saying that all this knowledge has made, yes, our customer more demanding, but also has made our customer with open eyes, and they are willing to really agreeing for us taking their hand and taking them along path that they didn't want it before. Before it was just, well, I choose you, you do whatever you want with my house. Well, today it's different. And do you think that the values of diversity and sustainability, John, will be more appreciated, are more appreciated today and will be more also in the future? Oops, that's me. Sorry about that. Sorry.
So my answer to that is absolutely. It's interesting. What I'm finding with clients now is, 5, 6 years ago, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, I could bring up the thought of sustainability, and people poo-pooed it. It was like, oh yeah, whatever. But people are becoming more informed. They're coming to understand, that what's in the foam and the mattress matters. That they're putting their kids to sleep in, or the sofas they're sitting on, watching TV for 3 or 4 hours a night. And there are certain things that are undeniable. Our summers are getting hotter. We have, our rainfalls are deeper. We have hurricanes that are now blowing up along the Atlantic. There are things that we can't deny that people are seeing, and they are becoming more and more well-informed about this. They're also, because it's hitting closer and closer home, I think becoming more and more willing to learn to, there are so many things that we can do that are not that hard to start putting a toe in the pond, but we have to change. And I think that there's a big awareness of that. I think we're fortunate also because we live in New York. We experience diversity every day. And I think what any of us can see that's going on across the country as well is there's larger and larger groups of diversity. There are things that are going on racially in different parts of the country that I don't think you would have expected, 10, 15 years ago. And I think people are even becoming aware. I see that, it's now become more politically correct rather than saying homeless, we say houseless. And there's an awareness that people are people, that some people are in a place that they did not cause it to happen, they did not, there are reasons, and I think people are becoming more and more concerned about all of this.
So we said more knowledge, but in a way also you are pointing out more sensitivity towards human problems.
Yes.
And Jeff, do you agree that these values, these changes will be part of our future?
In a word, yes. New York City is a microcosm of what's happening across the nation. You have extraordinary wealth, the highest records set ever during COVID. The most expensive apartment was sold during COVID ever in New York City. And at the same time, we're plagued by homelessness. And we have a soon-to-be new mayor, it seems unlikely that Eric Adams would lose this election, who has pledged to make all the hotels that have gone out of business housing for homeless, not homeless shelters, housing for homeless people. And what an exciting opportunity it is for designers. And it ties into sustainability. How can we create sustainable housing for future generations in this rare moment where we can acquire real estate in New York City, large real estate, some of these hotels have 60 plus rooms, how are we going to make these places not just habitable, but homeable? How are they going to be places that people deserve to live in and want to live in? This is it's an exciting challenge. If I was a designer, an architect, or urban planner right now, I would be kicking my heels up at the opportunity to create a new New York City. And this is going to be a reality. Eric Adams has already dropped this as a major policy, right? And the real estate community is also changing. There's a lot of young people that are real estate brokers, for instance. And social justice has never been more forefront. For instance, my firm is highly committed to social justice. There's a racial equality council, and this has become an important part of doing business. And you may be an extremely hard-edged person who doesn't care about homeless people, but surely you could understand that people camped out on the streets is not good for New York City business, if that's where your heart is. So this is something that's going to affect our city. I think we're all in this together. And real estate is going to transform. There will always be this level, the higher level that's astounding. It's fascinating. It's amazing. It's a kind of wealth that most of us will never know. But most of us live in a different society. And this housing change is bound to occur. This current situation is unsustainable.
So how do you see the future?
I see that we're going to need public figures, policymakers, and people, citizens, to come together to create committees and movements that address this. I think that I'm talking to somebody right now. I really can't disclose too much. Just a normal citizen who wants to transform 34th Street, which is what we call broken teeth, which is that every other storefront is lights out, to try and transform that into an arts and culture center, for instance, possibly including housing for artists in these spaces. So there are people, regular citizens, who care, concerned, who are going to start to make impact. And we need to elect leaders who care about this. This has to be something. There has to be something for everybody in this city. This is the most diverse city in the world. And there needs to be something for everybody, in my opinion. It's going to take, and it's happening, it's going to take effort on the part of the people.
But I believe people are becoming, as we said before, more and more open to these values that are very important. And it shows today we came the three together because we believe in a better future, right?
I might add that, I'm sorry.
No.
I was just saying, New York is very vulnerable to climate change. We are a coastal city, we are a harbor city, and we face the Atlantic Ocean. So we are very, very vulnerable, and this should be a cause that concerns everybody. And it won't be enough to build walls around the city. It won't be enough to keep repumping the subway stations. It's not going to be enough. So these are big problems facing our city, but we have the greatest minds. I think we can fix it.
And so you, John, how do you see then the future? Speak about your vision.
What I believe is that we have some mountains that we need to move. I see that happening. I see it in vendors like yourself. You look around the room, and nearly everything that Fabienne has made, beyond the vintage pieces, which of course buying vintage is one way to save the planet, but another is that so much of this work is either from refurbished wood or, but Fabienne is very, very conscientious about the things that she has made.
We tried.
You do more than fry. The last time I looked at your website, I was amazed at the items that I saw and reviewed that were there's maybe not entirely, but there's something about the construction of nearly everything you have made that is about making a sustainable product.
Yes. So you believe that sustainability also will take a big part in our future life?
It absolutely has to. If we don't take a big part in making it a part of our future life, that it will change our lives in such a way that, either we change to deal with it, or it will change in ways we don't want necessarily to see happen.
And I believe that's a lesson we have all had to learn lately, right?
Yes.
So, well, thank you so much, John, and thank you so much, Jeff, with your and so open and so sincere answers. So, does Noel tell us?
I have a question for you, Fabienne, because you said that Europe is a little bit more prepared than the United States. So that was something that I'd like to know more about. Yes, Venice has Moses to help with the washer, but as far as shortages and lead times, I was wondering why Europe is more prepared. And then for you, I was wondering about staging. Is staging really hot now, or do you think staging will be hot for the next 5 to 7 years? And then also, I'd just like to thank you for a panel of truly substance.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
to
nice
you.
to
So, do you want to answer first?
Well, she was asked you first.
It's because in Europe there is a big resources in people. People do go to great lengths to satisfy needs. So we are in a position today where a lot of craftsmen are ready to do even more hours and put more effort in order to satisfy the need of the market. Because there are people who really care for the result rather than the hours that they are making. And that is a value in Europe that I think today is very important. So it's the satisfaction of the client that is coming up, and regardless of all the problems that also in Europe we have, right? We have all these ships now coming in and being stopped at ports, but in Europe we are trying to find quickly solution in order to satisfy the needs of the market. And I believe also because Europe is realizing that the door has opened since Vietnam is closed now, and China has their own problem, so it's an opportunity. But it's an opportunity that the European people are, I think, able to take upon themselves and to manage. Not with miracle, I mean we try, right? If people work with us, they know that we try, and sometimes we make miracles, but at really also with a certain speed. So that's why I said that there is a kind of preparation for this overwhelming demand of the market today.
And regarding staging, it's definitely here to stay. So there has been a transition from staging being sort of an exotic service to major corporations like Congress and Corcoran creating these loan programs because it's understood by brokers and most people, I think, that an empty carpet not only doesn't present well on the web, and that's where we're looking for our properties now, it also looks small. So a full room of furniture makes an apartment look bigger, and one thing I think all New York apartments have in common is they're too small. So staging will be here forever. It's here to stay. I don't think that, in fact, at my company, I don't know if it's a hard and fast rule, but we're loath to put any pictures on the web that are staged, either virtually or physically. My personal experience is that it's essential to stage at least the entry, living room, and one bedroom of, let's say, a 3-bedroom. Stage at least those 3 rooms so that a potential buyer can come in, have somewhere to hang their coat, have somewhere to put their bag, grab a water, and then have somewhere to sit and talk to me about the property. We can't just stand around and drop our coat on the ground. So it's the entire experience of purchasing. It's not simply a 1-2. It has to be something that's an experience. Staging is going to be a big part of that. And on the level of sustainability, if you buy the furniture once and you use it many, many times, it's the business. You can make a lot of money as a stager as well. All right, it's an excellent business that needs to be explored by as a designer.
We agree. Yes. Yes.
I have a question for you, John. With sustainability, do you find yourself not just sourcing sustainable products and vintage products, but also reusing your clients' existing furniture a little bit more than you used to, like finding ways to make it work?
It's an interesting question. For several years now, every project that I've started, with a handful of exceptions, people move into these mega houses and they don't even have beds. So it never ceases to amaze me, that somebody can move into a home and need everything, absolutely everything. And as much as we can with that kind of situation, of course, we want to try and use antiques and vintage pieces and to use pieces that are sustainable. The Sustainable Furnishings Council actually has like a member's guide of sources. It's incredible. Like room and board, I had no idea room and board, everything they make is sustainable. So there's an enormous world of things that are out there and available if you look for them. And I think unlike what we probably experienced many, many years ago, there are many beautiful things that are being made. I have another point that completely left me. If it comes back, I'll let you know.
But anyway, about sustainability, and we really are for it, and we try to do our best to not try to use that word really in order to make our production different, but also we try our best to say to save our planet is a big word, but at least to try to keep it in good health. And I believe that every little drop makes a difference. So please follow us and try to keep on getting inspired, because we try to learn every day ways to be able to protect our planet, right? So please accompany us in this journey, because we think it's worth it.